Hello everyone. Hope you are fine. As I told you yesterday, let us discuss about agriculture on the eve of independence. So in this topic, let us discuss about the nature of agriculture on the eve of independence and the structure of Indian economy and the basic reasons for the stagnation of Indian economy at that time. These are the major topics we are going to discuss now. Are you ready? Welcome back to the class. So when we think about agriculture on the eve of independence, we can see that around during the British period or after the independence, around 85% of the total population of India, they were living or they lived in villages. That time they were settled in villages and they were livelihood means they are engaged in agriculture. 85% of the total population they were living or they were lived in villages that time and their main livelihood was agriculture. Directly or indirectly, they depended agriculture for their existence. But when we think about the nature of the agriculture setup that time, we can see that there was a stagnant economy. Economy was stagnant. Means that despite being the major source of livelihood for the people, means contributed for the existence of the people, this agricultural sector, the sector showed the nature of stagnation and gradual deterioration in the agricultural productivity. That when we think about the reasons for that, we can see that the Britishers, they did not show any such kinds of interest for the development of this sector. Even if this 85% of the total population of a country depends on this sector, the emphasis or the importance from the side of the Britishers were ignorant. It was zero in this regard. And when we study the reasons of that one, what was the major reasons or what was the situation of the agriculture during the British period, we can see that the productivity of the agriculture sector, it was very less compared with the other nations' agricultural productivity. Reasons are, we know what are the major reasons. Because when we think about the agricultural productivity, we can increase the productivity per hectare from the a piece of the land. It is only by using proper fertilizers, irrigation facilities, insecticides, and the arrangement of soil, everything. But in this regard, there was nothing from the side of the Britishers were there towards the productivity improvement. So definitely the result was weak productive accumulation. Second reason when we think about that, we can see there was unemployment in the country. Most of the people, they were unemployed. Unemployed means that the people they are ready to do the job, but the job was not available for them. Whatever be the existing wage rate, population they are ready to do the job, but that was not available. And agrarian sector means there was no job, that's why they engaged in agriculture. That is why this 85% of the total population depended agriculture. Clear? And third reason, when we think about the reasons for the backwardness of the agriculture in India, the production and the productivity. Production and productivity was low. Means what is meant by this productivity is due to two major situations. One is the land productivity, second one is the labor productivity. So productivity is not simply carried out easily in the economy. Productivity can be obtained by using two methods, two things. We have to improve the capacity of these two things. One is productivity on land productivity. How can we increase land productivity? Only by increasing the labor force. So we can consider land productivity and labor productivity. Land productivity, how can we increase? Land itself cannot increase the productivity. Land is not able to increase itself. We have to provide something. Why? We have to support the soil by providing better fertilizers. Providing water means irrigation facilities. Even it is in rural area or in village areas, whatever be the situations, we have to provide better irrigation. Because that time, most of the agricultural sector, still now also, we are depending monsoons for the irrigation. That system should be changed. Instead of that, we have to start on irrigation facilities by tube wells or canals or any system. That was not provided at that time. Is it? And second system is that labor productivity. Labor productivity, we mean how can we increase the labor productivity? We can increase the labor productivity by providing better training for the laborers and the literacy of the labor, technical knowledge, know-how of the labor, and support from the side of the government to provide this sector. Everything it was required, but that was not provided at that time. So because of these two systems, productivity also was very poor. Some estimates were shown that in the year 1947-48, means immediately after the independence, around 508 tons of food grains were produced in India. 508 tons. It was very poor considered to the nation's requirement. Food sufficiency was not good. So that is why starvation was there from the side of the people. That we'll discuss in the other area where we discuss the topic. Is it? And moreover, the fourth reason we can say, first one I told you, weak productive nature. Second one, unemployment. And third one, productivity and production. And fourth reason I remember that it is the subdivision of holdings or fragmented holdings. What is meant by fragmented holdings? The agricultural land was divided and again divided and subdivided. We can say small pieces of land. So in small pieces of land, there is no chance to adopt any such kinds of scientific cultivation. Cultivation means plowing the field is not possible. Irrigation is not possible. So all the farmers, they were working in their own piece of land and their total productivity was very poor. So in total we can say what we can conclude that agriculture, Indian agriculture was primitive, stagnant and all. Primitive and stagnant. All the primitive techniques we used and the nature of agriculture was stagnant. Stagnant means, as I told you yesterday, there was no change or no improvement. Is it? So let us discuss. If now we declared that Indian economy was stagnant. So now let us discuss what was the reason or what were the causes behind this stagnation in the economy. So when we think about the causes of stagnation, few major points we have to analyze. First one, I'll tell you the points first. Then you can remember that. Land tenure system. The first and foremost cause of land stagnation in the agriculture in India, it was land tenure system. Second reason, that was the commercialization of agriculture. Commercialization of agriculture was the second reason. And third major reason is that is a partition of the country. The country was being divided into two. Indian Union, it was divided into two, India and Pakistan. Two independent countries. These are the three major reasons of stagnation of agriculture. Sometimes in examination we may ask the question, what were the causes of stagnation in India? So we can write the answer. Okay, are you ready now? Let us continue. So regarding the causes of stagnation, as I told you, first reason is that land tenure system. Land tenure system means the land settlement system, the system of the land followed in the country. Is it? So during British period, the land tenure system we can study, we can divide into three system of land tenure it was there. First one is a land zamindari system. Second one, rayatwari system. And third one, mahalwari system. So let us discuss one by one. And here we have to study what are the features of the system and which all areas the systems were implemented by the Britishers and who was the person behind this policy and all. First of all, zamindari system. It is very familiar system. It is known as one of the permanent land settlement system of the Britishers. Implemented in the year 1793 by Lord Cornwallis in Bengal. Basically, it was in Bengal, means immediately after the Plassey and all. As I told you yesterday, 1757, after the Battle of Plassey, Britishers got the right to collect revenues from Bengal. So, in continuation to that one, they started a settlement system in Bengal. That time, the Bengal province, the administration was controlled through the Bengal region. There was no other regions that time. So, the Governor General of Bengal, All the administration was like that, Bengal area. So this was a system for the Bengal region and all. Adopted by whom? By Lord Cornwallis in the year 1793. And Zamindar means the owner of the land. Hereditarily or hereditary base, he is becoming the owner. And he has the right to sell the land to the person. Sell the land to the person. And he was doing there on the land, this Zamindar, he was collecting revenue from the land more than the amount. Means what is requested by the government, British government, East India Company, not British government, East India Company, more than around 25% more he was collecting from the land. And who was working the land? The tiller, the farmer. So land is given to the farmer. He is using the land for the cultivation, and this zamindar is collecting the revenue from the land more than 25%. Means 125 will collect, 100% he will pay to the government. 25% zamindar will keep in his purpose. And it was fixed. The amount paid to the British East India Company was fixed. Is it? So the first feature of this system is that owner of the land was who? The zamindar. Second feature is that the revenue amount was fixed by the British government. But any time zamindar want to increase the land revenue, he was increasing the rate. He increased the rate. And he was charging more from the farmers. Maximum of 25% also he was charging. So farmer will be all the time, he will be in the land only for the cultivation. Is it? Born in debt and died in debt, like that what we said. Is it? So such a way, landlord, this zamindar exploited the farmers. And third feature is that zamindar did not cultivate anything on the land. He was only the owner of the land. He was holding the land in his hand and he was using the land for his own purposes. Is it? As I told you, and the revenue was permanently fixed by the British government. But the amount of the zamindar was not fixed. That he can increase any time. And the entire right of the land was with the zamindar. He could sell the land or he can do anything with the land. There was no other question regarding that one. These are the major features of this zamindari system in India. And when we think about which all areas it was implemented, basically it was implemented in Bengal. First it was in Bengal, then Bihar, then certain regions of Uttar Pradesh, and Madras presidency afterwards, and Varanasi area and all. These are the major areas where this permanent land settlement system was implemented. Actually, this term, zamindar system, it was originated from Persian language, Persian word. The landowner in Persia is known as zamindar. Also, this term used during Mughal Empire and all. Okay, these are the historical things relating to that one. It is not required for you. You have to study the features of the system, who implemented the system, who was implemented here, and which year, and what was the major points of this analysis. Clear now? One more point I forgot regarding zamindari system. This Lord Cornwallis, he introduced the administrative systems into three. Means we can see in history, Cornwallis Code. I forgot to tell that also. Cornwallis Code of Cornwallis. So it consists of three. It was divided the entire officials into three sections. One is revenue collectors, revenue settlement people. Second one, judicial administrators. And third one, commercial people. There is a land settlement and permanent settlement, all are coming under the revenue settlements of Cornwallis Code. That also you have to add in your point. Okay. So let's come to Rayatwari system. When we think about Rayatwari system, Rayat means farmer. Rayat. Farmer means it provides direct relationship, direct connection. That was not available in zamindari system. Here the farmer can directly contact the British government. There was no intermediaries there. So actually this policy was the abolition of intermediaries from the agricultural sector. That is an important thing. Introduced in Madras and all. And basic features, first one is that this policy gave a privilege to the farmer to contact with the government, direct contact with the British government. First feature. Second feature is that the freedom of giving up the land, it was vested in the hands of the farmer. If the farmer he wants to leave the agriculture field, he can leave the field. But that was not possible in Zamindari system, is it? So a farmer can decide whether should I continue or not. That was the right of the farmer. That was the advantage of this right-wari system. And third advantage feature is that this land revenue system was assessed. There was an assessment of this system, annual assessment, and land is fixed on the basis of the potential of the soil. Potential of the soil means the more cultivable soil, more fertile soil, they have to pay more revenue. Means that soil the farmer can use for 3 times cultivation and all. So accordingly, this revenue was set, is it? Instead of fixing tax revenue on the land. I mean, the Zamindari system that was fixed, permanently fixed, no assessment. But now assessment was there. And fourth feature is that, I think fourth one, is that this the land system, revenue system reduced from 1/2 to 1/3. Means that was a privilege and support to the farmer. That much money only they have to pay to the government. And landowner, who was the landowner, the proprietor of the land, it was with the farmer. So farmer became the landowner, and until the farmer pays the tax revenue, land revenue to the government, he should be continued there in the agricultural sector. There was no right to remove from the land until he was paying the tax revenue. Understood? If he is not paying the tax revenue, there was the provision to remove that. That was the provision to remove. This is the Rayatwari system. Means more right to the farmers. Clear now? Then we are moving to the third system, Mahalwari system. So in this word, Mahal means village. So means here the entire right of the land revenue collection of the right was given to the village head. Right. So Rayatwari system. So regarding this implementation of this policy, there was some discussion. Means it was implemented in different places. So we can see in the writings of William Bendick in the year 1823. It was implemented and enacted as the rule in the year 1833. But actually it was implemented in the certain villages by the governors of that region. It was Francis Hastings and Robert, one name, I forgot his name, Robert Byrd. These two are the people implemented these policies as per the instructions of William. So the policy was propounded by William Bendick. Especially for which all regions, Agra, no doubt, Agra, Oudh and certain regions of Punjab and all, is it? And the major features are, village as a whole is considered to be a land. And the land revenue is collected by the village head, the Mahalwar. The village head should collect the land revenue and he has to pay to the government. Correct? And second feature we can see that review was there. Means the land revenue reviewed there. Assessment was made every 30 years of the settlement. Maximum 30 years only it was provided, and after 30 years it is reviewed, means revised. The rate is revised. Understood? So means it gave more privilege or more right to the farmers. And the land, third feature we can say, it was fixed on the basis of the land holding, how much area holded by the farmer and the nature of the soil, whether irrigatable land or unirrigated land. Means irrigation facility is there or not, is it? So in such a way, it made the matter and more privilege to the farmers. It provided more privilege. And moreover, it was fixed portion of the land revenue. So for some fixation was there in this matter. Means land revenue was fixed. And depends upon the soil, it was different also. See, so this such a way means very micro analysis is there. Considering the soil, accordingly fixing the land. And some fixed amount also fixed there. Means they are examining the quality of the soil. According means depends upon the quality of the soil, the fertility will be changing. So accordingly only the farmer has to pay the tax. Very wise situation, a very advisable policy that time. Is it? These are the major features of this Mahalwari system. Altogether we can say this land tenure system was there, And because of this land tenure system, agricultural sector was stagnant. Clear now? And second cause among the causes of stagnation, as I told you, it is commercialization of agriculture. So by this commercialization of agriculture, we mean it is the conversion of agricultural land from food crops to cash crops. Agricultural sector commercialized means something we were producing something for the food, staple food. Now this sector is commercialized. Now this agriculture we are converted into commercial level means for the in order to earn foreign currencies. Such a way the matter changed. Means food crops to cash crops. Definitely it led to famine because it led to the shortage of food grains in the country. So when we can see that, and this matter also pointed by Amartya Sen, Nobel Prize laureate winner of economics. He quoted in his book Poverty and Famine regarding the commercialization of agriculture and its aftermath. He is saying that because of the commercialization, Indian communities started starvation for the food grains. The shortage of food grain was enormous. That was beyond the expectations and all. And basically, Bengal famine and all of 1942 and all. That also important. That also important due to this commercialization of this agriculture during British period, and that continued there. And when we study the commercialization, we can see three phases of commercialization, I think. First phase is that plantation agriculture. Second one, subsistence commercialization. And third one, dependent commercialization. So once again, plantation agriculture, subsistence commercialization, and dependent commercialization. So in other terms, we can say first phase is phase of tea. Tea phase means Britishers compelled the Indian farmers to cultivate tea and coffee, especially in Bengal region and other regions also wherever it is possible. Is it? So means because of from the food crops, people started cultivating tea and coffee for the industrial matters of Britain. Second thing, in subsistence commercialization, we can call it as jute phase. Means Britishers forced the people to cultivate jute industry and jute textiles, especially in 19th and 20th centuries. Correct. And third phase, it is more aggressive. Dependence commercialization means indigo cultivation. Immediately after the Industrial Revolution, you know that Britishers started their search parties all over the world for the collection of raw materials for the industries of Britain. And for the dyeing industry, for the textile industry, it was required jute, 18th and 19th century. So we can call it as the indigo phase. These are the three major phases of commercialization of agriculture. Means gradually and slowly. And one more strategy they used behind this commercialization, that also we have to note down, is that they started providing finance for the farmers, for the cultivation. Only on condition you have to cultivate the crop what we are suggesting. Is it? And they force the farmers also to cultivate such crops also through their administrative power and all, especially in Bengal and Madras and areas also. Is it? Such a way they converted the Indian agriculture, means we were producing food crops from the commercial crops. And let us see what are the major causes of this commercialization, you know. That is due to the communication, easy communication facilities of the Britishers in India. Because they started railways and other telecommunication facilities for the matters of that also. Is it? Communication facilities, transport facilities, all the facilities are utilized for these matters and all. Such a way, it was easy for them. And introduction of money, because they started purchasing the commodities from the farmers and they started giving money. So seeing that situation, their mindset of the farmers also changed. Such a way, they exploited the farmers Is it? These are the major reasons, causes behind the commercialization. Seeing that money and all, definitely most of the farmers decide. Anyway, we will get money from the cultivation and we can buy food grains from market. That was the concept they promoted that time. But all the farmers, they converted from food crops to cash crops. Who will cultivate food items? That was the matter. So food shortage was an issue in the market. And moreover, jute cultivation, oil seed, opium cultivation, the narcotic product, opium cultivation also became more during the Civil War period in America, because the Britishers were buying, they were purchasing, using the exports of America, means the products from America for the jute industry and all. When the Civil War started, definitely the market closed. Isn't the American market closed? So that led to the demand for jute products from India, and they forced Indian farmers to cultivate jute also. Clear? These are the major commercialization issues. Let us move to the third cause among the causes of stagnation. That is the partition of the country. Indian Union, it was divided into two in the year 1947 August, and two independent states were formed, India and Pakistan. So even if it is formed there, politically there's a big issues there. We know that what are the situations, what were the situations of partition of the country and all. Let us discuss about the economic nature of the situations. So when we think about the population, around 82% of the total population continued in India with 77% of the land area. But in Pakistan, 18% of the population went into Pakistan with 23% of land area. So land area wise also, more population was here and less was there. And most of the irrigating land went to Pakistan. And non-irrigated land remained here. So economically, very clearly, the Britishers divided the country into two. No such progress should be obtained afterwards. Sugarcane and sugar mills. So most of the sugarcane growing, cultivating area went to Western Punjab, into Pakistan. We got only less areas. And in case of the jute growing area, went into Eastern Pakistan. Now it is with the Bangladesh. You know which country is the largest exporter of jute in the world? It is Bangladesh. Before it was Eastern Pakistan. After the third India-Pak war, it became Bangladesh now, is it? And I told you yesterday regarding Dhaka, muslin and all. In such a way, the entire resource of the country was divided such a very tactful way by the Britishers. Minerals and all. Almost when we think about all these things, jute, sugarcane, cotton and all, the share of our country, what is remained here, it was less. And we got more population with less land area. Pakistan got less population with more land area. And good land also, it went to Pakistan. Such a way, the country, it was divided. This partition also created big economic crisis in case of our country. These are the major causes of stagnation. So once again, let us sum up the causes. First one is that land tenure system. Second one is the commercialization of agriculture. Third one is the partition of the country. Hope you enjoyed the class. Tomorrow I'll come with a new topic. Till then, bye bye.